Once they were on the same song. Now, one of them made a record calling the other a fraud, and the entire world sang along. This is the biggest feud in music this century. On one side, Drake, the most commercial rapper who ever lived. This year alone, he dropped 3 albums on the same day, and debuted all 3 in the top 3 of the Billboard chart. Nobody in history had ever done that. On the other, Kendrick Lamar, the most decorated rapper who ever lived. 27 Grammys, a diss track that crossed 1 billion streams and swept the awards. 2 men, one argument that never ended. So tonight, we end it. Drake versus Kendrick, settled at last by the numbers. Here is why this fight never dies. Because Drake and Kendrick are not just 2 rappers. They are 2 completely opposite definitions of winning. Drake is the charts, the streams, the sales, the #1 hits stacked higher than anyone in history. If success is measured in numbers, he has already won, and it is not close. Kendrick is the culture, the Grammys, the classics, the respect of every critic alive, and a diss record that did not just win an argument, it headlined the Super Bowl. One man rules the scoreboard, the other rules the conversation. So who actually wins? The charts or the culture? Start with Drake, because the numbers he owns are almost unfair. This year, he released 3 albums in a single day, ICEMAN, Habibti, and Maid of Honor, and became the first artist in history to debut all 3 in the top 3 of the Billboard 200. ICEMAN opened with 463,000 units, the biggest week for any rap album this year, and the biggest streaming week of 2026. And that is just this year. Drake has charted more songs than any artist who has ever lived. He turned an entire genre into the sound of the planet. By the raw numbers, he is the most successful recording artist of his whole generation. That is the case for the charts. But now look at what Kendrick has. That Drake may never touch. Respect. Because Kendrick Lamar just became the most awarded rapper in the history of the Grammys. 27 wins. More than Jay-Z. More than Kanye. More than anyone who has ever picked up a microphone. He has a Pulitzer Prize for music. The only rapper alive who does. And in 2024, he made a song called Not Like Us, a diss track that crossed 1 billion streams, broke Drake's own Spotify record, won 5 Grammys, and became the sound of an entire culture turning its back. Drake sells the most records. Kendrick makes the ones they teach. That is the case for the culture. And here is what makes this personal. Because they did not just compete, they went to war. In 2024, the 2 biggest rappers alive spent a month trading songs built to end each other. Drake fired. Kendrick fired back harder. And when the smoke cleared, one track was still standing. Not Like Us. The most streamed diss in history. A chart-topping, Grammy-sweeping, stadium-chanted knockout. Drake sold more that year, but he did not win that year. The scoreboard and the street said 2 completely different things. And that is the entire argument in one single summer. But be careful before you crown either one, because the numbers hide what actually matters. Drake can sell 50 million records and still be called a pop star by the very people he most wants to impress. Kendrick can win every Grammy on the shelf and still watch Drake outsell him on a random Tuesday. Sales do not equal respect, and respect does not pay a streaming check. One of them will be remembered as the most popular, the other as the most important. And the cruel truth of music is, those have almost never been the same person. So which one really wins? It depends entirely on what you think music is for. So, make the case for Kendrick. His believers will tell you, stop counting streams. Anybody can go viral. Not everybody makes art that lasts 50 years. Kendrick has the Pulitzer, 27 Grammys, a catalog critics call untouchable. And when it came to a straight fight, bar for bar, song for song, he did not just beat Drake, He made the whole world chant it back. Drake is the bigger star, they will admit. But stars fade, legends get studied. Give it 20 years. And it is Kendrick's records they are still playing. That is the case for The Crown. Now make the case for Drake. His believers will laugh at the debate. Because one artist here has dominated the charts for 15 straight years, and it is not Kendrick. Drake has charted more hits than any human being in the history of the Billboard chart. 3 albums, one day top 3. Nobody ever. Kendrick makes an album every few years, they will say. Drake moves the entire industry every few months. Awards are opinions, streams are facts, and by the only scoreboard that actually counts the fans. It is not even a conversation. That is the case for the king of the charts. So the honest scorecard. Grammy wins. Kendrick, 27-5, and it is a landslide. Billboard #1 albums. Drake, more than anyone alive, 3 in a single day this year. Charted hits. Drake, the most in the entire history of the Hot 100. The Diss War. Kendrick, not like us, 1 billion streams, 5 Grammys, 1 knockout. 2026 sales. Drake, 463,000 in a week, the year's biggest. And the critical crown. Kendrick, a Pulitzer and the respect of every list ever made. Count them up. 3 each. The scoreboard is split right down the middle, because this fight was never about numbers. It was about what you value more. So here is where it lands. If greatness is what the most people chose, the streams, the sales, the 15 years on top of the charts, then it is Drake, and it is not close. But if greatness is what the culture kept, the classics, the Grammys, the diss a whole planet still chants, then it is Kendrick, and it is not close either. One man owns the charts, the other owns the culture. One sold the most, the other meant the most. And the reason this argument will never die is that both of those things are real. So we will ask you, Drake or Kendrick? Drop your verdict in the comments and subscribe. Because the next great feud is already brewing, and when it drops, we are putting it on this exact scoreboard. The numbers are in, the verdict is yours.